Hey guys, Loman02. We're currently enrolled in a vintage Swiss off Gatherling.com. I was kind of off vintage for a while, and then I randomly put together and played Paradoxical Storm, and I kind of had fun with the deck. So, I want to give it a try. Unfortunately, I picked up a buy round 1, but it does give us time to scout on everyone else's deck. So the Unseen is on, I don't know, some sort of a mud deck. Hard telling. I don't see any mana, or don't see any rocks yet. So he's tapping the Grim Monolith. It is Mike DeVoe's turn. Is he on Paradoxical Storm as well? It looks like he could be. Although Preordain does not assure that. I play one Preordain in my pile for Paradoxical Storm, although I don't think the card is per se phenomenal in that deck. It's a fine card. But it feels like he's probably on sort of Paradoxical. Okay, here Ancestral Recall would be my guess to get up on cards, and what he probably doesn't want to see is a rock on the other side. Yeah, Ancestral, Fetching, Underground Sea, no Tundra. All right, well, he's on something different. I wouldn't put an Paradoxical Storm out, but it looks like it's a more controlling variant. Mine is much more combo-oriented. All right, we're going to see who else is playing. Bobo Fraggles versus Yokai. I think they'll both be on interesting decks. Yokai specifically. I think Yokai has actually played Burn in Vintage before, which I'm not sure how good that is. Well, if the game will load. It may not have initiated yet. And who else is playing? We also have Kasparati and No Outs. Okay, there's a Thorn of Amethyst. Okay. Okay, he does have a way to counter it, which my guess would be at this point he likely... Well, he got rid of a Time Twister, so he probably has the... he's definitely going to have the ability to cast out his... not his Unexpected Results. Yeah, I can't think of the card name for some reason. Yeah, Paradoxical Outcome, I'm sorry. Yeah, but that was Paradoxical Storm. So he casts that, and goes up to 11 cards, and from here should win. I would be surprised if he does not win from here. I feel like once you're at this point, you're winning the game, which is good for him because if you can pick up the game, the first game, I think that tends to be good for you. He's playing an Esper variant, though, I would assume, because Tendrils is probably the best win con. I suppose you could utilize a Brain Freeze. Obviously, an either color variant. Well, if it was just like a Zorius, Mind's Desire is still alive, which could just get like big, silly things. I don't know. Okay, interesting. So we have a Deathrite Shaman in just a forest and a Pendelhaven. Is this like poison? I'm sorry, not poison, but infect? I don't really commonly see Pendelhaven in decks. Other than infect, that is the place I see it most. It is probably, though, although the second most played Legends cycle land, excepting Karakas. So that was that one. Has this one started yet? It appears it has. So, Bobo Fraggles is on some sort of stacks pile. There's an Umezawa's Jite, a main. Which is a fine card. I don't think it's really an aggressive start for him. My guess would be Yokai is on his Red Deck Wins variant, but has a land light hand. I think Red Deck Wins will have a tough time winning. Okay, he's discarding Goblin Guides because he can't cast them. He need one more land to do it. So precarious place for him. Wait. Well, Doc Pringles, I guess they had to restart the match. Yeah, it just looks like Paradoxical Storm is doing what it does. Although of note, I guess he went up to 11 cards. I'm just thinking in my head, I wonder if it was... No, it couldn't have been better to cast the Time Spiral. That's the card he exiled. There was Force of Will, getting rid of the Thorn of Amethyst. Yeah, this game is over. I think you can concede at this point. Just knowing this deck, I know that once you've drawn that many cards, you've hit your decisive point of victory, or for victory. And he probably has more, and if not, he probably has a win con. Alright, so Brain Freeze is his win con, and that will be more than enough to mill a 60-card deck. If I'm not mistaken, that is 21 copies of it, milling exactly 63 cards out of his deck. And my guess would be he's around 53 to 52 at this point. Okay, well, he concedes at that point. He does not have an Embercle of the Aeon's Torn or some other card that cycles his deck back in. So that one's over. And we guessed it. I guess he does not play the Tendrils. I do like Tendrils of note as a win con a little bit more, but to be honest with that deck, it's funny because, like, you know, once you get Tendrils going, like, you kill them for a million. Like, it's not like you hit 20 perfectly with it, or hit Storm Count 10. Generally speaking, it's not a tight race on the Storm Count. It's just, you get it. You get it or you don't. Alright, so Elves. I would assume of the combo variant, although we've yet to see any of the combo elves themselves. We're going to see a Heritage Druid here. That would be a solid one. That is the combo with the Nettle Sentinel. And then into some variant of... okay, we're going to redraw a card, it appears. Into some variant of multiple Nettle Sentinels and at some point Glimpse of Nature. Multiple Nettle Sentinels with a singular copy of Heritage Druid and Glimpse of Nature is what does it here. So he's getting a Heritage Druid here, would be my guess. If he has a Mental Misstep, he wants to counter this. That's one of the weaknesses of Green Sun Zenith, and why I don't think you've seen it played as much in this format, because it is counterable by Mental Misstep. I would guess that's what we're going to see here, unless he has like a 3-mana counter, which would be kind of weird. I can't think of an instant speed Wrath effect. Over here, we at least have a threat on board. How he got that on board, I do not know, because I don't see any cards exiled. Oh, he cast it. Okay, so this is the second game, so he probably lost his first game. I guess it'd be he got stuck on lands. Got a Rift Bolt up. He'll still have to pay 2 more for that when it comes down, so he'll do 5 next turn, putting him down to 13 unless he can put a blocker on board, which, once he gets a blocker, it's probably just going to be bigger than what he's got going on. I would assume he's probably brought in the Wormcoil Engine, which, if noted, is uncastable at this point in time, because he only has 6 mana available and would require 7 to do that. I hope to see a fair game now. Well, I don't know if you come to the right place for fair games, man. Stax is not a fair deck against decks that are trying to cast spells, you know, rapidly to life an opponent. That's why I think Storm is just a better deck in this format, because it can do it faster than Burn can. And really just the power of Hercule's Recall, Chain of Vapor, against this deck specifically. If you can Hercule's Recall them end step without dying and win the following turn, then that's just game. They can't really do anything about it. They're not an interactive deck outside of making your stuff cost more. So their tax effects are the most interactive cards they have. So he's going to pay 2 mana to cast this now, after having paid 1 earlier. Yep, and he is going to have a 2/3 and do 3 damage to face down to 13. Of note, the Mana Crypt did hit player Bobo Fraggles last turn. Alright, so we have a Spell Queller is what got Green Sun Zenith. Interesting. Well, he has a blocker. That Green Sun Zenith was most assuredly going to be a Hermit Druid just to make a whole boat of mana. My guess would be this deck wins. Oh, that's pretty good. This deck likely wins through Craterhoof Behemoth, Gaia's Cradle, Craterhoof Behemoth, and or Hermit Druid combo with the Nettle Sentinels to make just a whole boat of mana. Alright, who is still playing? Mike DeVoe in the Unseen. Let's see what this game's all about. Alright, well, it's Stax versus Paradoxical Storm again. Or the same match we were watching. So he did counter the Trinisphere, but it appears he's under quite a significant lock at this point in time. Tangle Wire on 4, with a 2/2, a Walking Ballista. Now, what it really come down to for the Unseen is, will he draw lands or will he draw rocks? And I say rocks, I mean Thorn of Amethyst and Sphere of Resistance, or threats, i.e. can you kill him rapidly, or can you make it such that as he comes off the Tangle Wire, he cannot cast spells? It's going to be very difficult to do the latter because he has Black Lotus in play, unless you could Phyrexian Revoker the Black Lotus, stopping it. This appears to be a Trike. Yep, and it is. It's either Trike or Walking Ballista. For that mana, I don't think he would bring in a Wormcoil Engine. And that should be game right there. So that's 6 damage plus 6, so 12 damage, plus the Mishra's Factory activation. He's dead next turn. So that'd be game. You can concede here, because that's exactly lethal. That's Mishra's Factory 2 plus 6, 8 plus 6, 14. Yep, so that's game. We'll go ahead and dial off this one. Well, we may have chosen poorly to play this deck. I do have a Stax deck built as well. I just don't tend to enjoy playing it as much. It's a very good deck. I don't think the deck is extremely fun. It's very top deck driven. It just loses certain matchups pretty horrifically, and honestly, it's lost quite a bit of power since it lost Lodestone Golem Chalice much longer ago. And I just don't have as much fun playing it, to be honest. It's a top deck, and well, that seems pretty good against a red deck wins. As is Mishra's Workshop, I don't think red deck wins is ever going to have an easy time beating this deck. He's got him at 13, but unless he has Ingot Chewer or like a Vandal Blast, it could do it here. He attacks. Interesting. Oh, he's going to block, it appears. I got a Bolt, it would appear. That would be 2 mana. Yep. And all he has to do here is he could sacrifice his 2 artifacts, or he could just let this thing die. I don't know. I think that block was sketchy, to be honest with you. I think, well, maybe not. Maybe he feels he has to. He's going to get his creature as well. He's down to 4 cards on 2. Threats he draws are going to be a lot better, and if he can ever lock up that Umezawa's Jitte with a secondary land that enables activation costs to be paid, then he's likely to win. Really, it comes down to is, does he have enough lands and another threat, and if he can lock up the Umezawa's Jitte, I don't feel like the game can be lost. This is going to be, a Foundry Inspector. Does he have another land? If not, it's a very high mana source deck. I think he's extremely favored against red deck wins. Although I don't think red deck wins is per se, it's not a staple of Vintage. I think it will tend to have difficulties. Let's see what Doc Pringles and AEF are up to. AEF, I would assume, is on burn as well. No, White Weenies. Cool. That's pretty sweet. And then he is on an Angel of Glory's Rise combo deck, utilizing Hermit Druid to get there. It's a pretty sweet deck as well, and it's actually probably relatively inexpensive to build. So he's got a Bridge from Below in there. What else exiled? Only 1 Bridge from Below. Interesting. Yeah, he's got the Lab Man, so he wins via milling himself, which Hermit Druid tends to be pretty good at. So let's go back and see what's going on here. So the Heritage Druid has come down. Excuse me, guys. So mana is basically infinite. It really comes down to, can you top deck your threat? Now, I think he does need to, at some point, lock up. It's interesting that he got the Heritage Druid here. Well, if he has something in hand, he wants to tap the Nettle Sentinel plus 1 other card, I believe, prior to that coming in, because it should untap the Nettle Sentinel, which then gives him the opportunity for more mana. So if he hits another Nettle Sentinel there and then has another Elf, yeah, I think that may have been wrong, but I could be incorrect on that. All right, so he gets the Wirewood Symbiote, and he gets Mental Misstep. Of note, if Kasparati gets the chance to attack with the sword here, then he will be able to blow up the Heritage Druid, which I think is probably right. Although that's a lot of damage coming back, even though it's just 1/1s. I mean, I don't know if he runs Elf Lords. My guess would be probably not. Yeah, both of them are still stuck on lands. I still think that Bobo Fraggles is highly favored here because, I mean, all he has to do is hit an Ancient Tomb and, like, he's in business for all of his big, silly stuff. Although, of note, if he's playing, like, a version, like a car shop version, then, like, I guess he can, no, he can't cast it at that point. So, Goblin Guide, get in there. A 3-mana Goblin Guide, not quite the same as a 1-mana version of it. Alright, hits, kills the Heritage Druid, would be my best guess. No, the Wirewood Symbiote. Well, you know what, I suppose he has to do that because it's an insect and he can actually kill it. Yeah, being fair, yeah, I didn't notice that, and that's actually good on him. He played that better than I would. I was thinking in my head, just hit the Heritage Druid, which is what the card you want to kill, but you can't because of the Wirewood Symbiotes, because on his turn they can actually flip the Heritage Druid or any other elf back to hand, saving it, and also depriving you of the additional card off of Sword of Fire and Ice. This game actually looks to be the most interesting to me. Really, this one's going to come down to whoever hits lands first. He's gaining 1 life of turn of note. I don't know how relevant that's going to be in this matchup. I think it's probably less relevant for the Stacks player, although they do have a significant number of 2-mana spells in the deck. It really comes down to, do you have a threat? Do you have any sort of threat? Is really kind of the question. If I were him, I'd be asking. Let's see what's going on over here. I think this is still of note to game 1. There's a Gaia's Cradle. It's a pretty interesting alternate art. Well, that means he has essentially infinite mana. If he has the Craterhoof Behemoth, he can certainly cast it here. Wirewood Symbiote flipping all these Elvish Visionaries has probably led to a significant volume of card draw. And if he was able to get the right ones, namely a Craterhoof or multiple Craterhoofs, then he'll likely win if he can't Force of Will twice. Well, that's a Glimpse, which, of note, like, yeah, exactly. That's the card I was going to say, like, it just gets that and makes it a lot worse. Like, Elves, I think, during the time frame that Metal Misstep was legal in Legacy, was just not a deck, because that card is really what brings it together. It can still fight and win games pretty well, but it becomes a lot more fragile when it doesn't have a card engine in it. And that really is the card engine. I suppose you could use the 2-mana variety. I think it's Beck and Call. It's 2 or 6 mana. Alright, Birchlore Rangers, essentially a worse version of the Heritage Druid. But if he doesn't have it in hand, alright, well, oh, he's already got, the Glimpse the Glimpse are actually resolved. So I thought he had cast a Mental Misstep on it. He evidently did not. That was just in his graveyard. Yeah, so the Elves player is going to probably win here. I guess he can Force of Will him, but he's going to have so many cards that without, like, a moat or... A moat may just do it. I mean, I don't know if he runs Reclamation Sage a main. If he does, he probably has access to one by this point. But that may be a bold claim. That may not be true. Let's see how the burn matchup is going. Actually, interestingly enough, Bobo Fraggles could most certainly win here. Although, activate a Thorn to attack him with the Umezawa's Ajite. Interesting. Inventor's Fair at some point in time will likely be utilized to acquire a larger threat, because Karn is fine for holding down the fort, but it's not so great for attacking into other threats, because it just becomes a 0/8 whenever it's blocked, or blocks. Whenever it gets into combat, it becomes a 0/8. Well, correction, not when it gets into combat. When it gets blocked, when it gets blocked or it blocks in combat, it becomes a 0/8. Its power, obviously, is that it can make 10 power worth of attackers. Interesting. So he has the burn spell here. I think at this point you do turn your cards into artifact creatures and block. Although the danger that you run with this is that... And he only needs to make 2, so I think those should probably be the Thorns of Amethyst. And I think he blocks 2 of the Eidolons, and then blocks out the Goblin Guide with the Karn Silver Golem. Okay, well, 9-15. This game is, in my opinion, likely over. No ounce on this Elves list, I think, is going to win. Although, of note, and Elves is fast, but I think Storm is just faster. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think it's probably going to have a lot of ways to interact. Outside of, like, Reclamation Sage, which, you know, it does have ounce to doing turn 1 if it plays like a Lotus, but I don't think it's that likely. Here he just gets the other insect. You can see Elves' turns can go quite long. You got one player essentially down 7 minutes. So it becomes a 2-3 and does not die, but he still draws his card off of it. Now the question becomes, do you have like a Wrath of God or a Moat? Not Wrath of God, it'd be Supreme Verdict is the card he'd likely be playing. And no, he does not have it, and or he does not have the land to play it. So he wins that first game. We have a Smash to Smithereens. Well, that's interesting and not good for a player Bobo Fraggles. Although I think you probably could have expected that card was going to be in the deck. How does this card work now? You just search for one? I think you want to do that. I think if you have Worm Coil, if you have access to Worm Coil in the deck, I don't know what he does. Well, I guess he could just burn you over the top of it. If he has... I don't know, it's Sticky Wicket. Because if he doesn't have the mana for it, then he's doing nothing. Well, actually, it looks like Red Deck Wins is probably going to get there in this matchup. I think it took a bit of luck, but I think it will. So let's minimize this one. All right, Mike DeVoe. Yeah, but the thing with Price of Progress is you can just use Wasteland to blow your own stuff up. Just leave Wasteland up. If it's going to kill you. He definitely has access to it, I would say. Although that's a card that worries me. I will only probably ever have like three lands tops in play with the deck I'm playing. So Mike DeVoe beat the... well, correction, let's see who won. Alright, we can't tell. We'll see soon enough. We missed that one. I kind of want to see what these two are up to. Did the Hermit Druid mill strategy get there? Against a White Weenie. He's got Pithing Needle too. That got Duressed, and then he Cabal Ritualed, or correction, Cabal Therapied. The Swords to Plowshares out. Well, if he has another Pithing Needle, that would be pretty horrendous. Okay, Thalia's Lieutenant, it's just a beating. Okay, Yokai won the match against Stax. Pretty cool. My guess would be he also has Red Elemental Blast available to him in the board. What I'm wondering is, does he have Null Rod available? His deck is less expensive, so I don't know. I don't even know what Null Rod goes for. I'm kind of curious to see. Let us see. Well, if it ever gets there. Actually pretty cheap. You can get it for 31 cents. Yeah, that's reasonable. Definitely reasonable. Amazing that card goes that cheap. It's a great card. I think Stony Silence is a little more popular because there is less artifact removal. Yeah, Chain of Vaporing that guy after you've already milled your entire library and it got into play. So does he have the Swords to Plowshares? If he has Swords to Plowshares, like that's just game, right? Because he'll just blow up the Lab Man. After Lab Man gets blown up, then he just loses on upkeep. I'm sorry, he loses... Yeah, he loses upon the turn. The passing of the turn. Because he can't haste this stuff in there, can he? And he's got Shallow Grave available too. That's pretty cool. What does Nausea even do? I can't remember this card. Oops. All creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn. Seems okay. Toxic Deluge seems better. So what cool ones does he have? He got a Gut Shot. It's kind of interesting. He is running some Force of Wills. Seems kind of risky. Not a ton of blue cards. I guess there's some. Snapcaster, a Preordain. Can you blow up the Lab Man? Is really the question. If you have another Swords to Plowshares here, then you just win. Well, I suppose you don't, but like he can't. Okay. Why would you give him the draw? Oh, because he can't use Polluted Delta for mana. Oops. Oopsie daisy. Yeah, he needed to fetch that before he activated the Hermit Druid. Is that game? He must have them. Well, let's go back to the Elves matchup. It looks like that game is over. I'm not really sure for whom, but... Uh-oh. Well, hey guys, we're gonna go on a quick pause, and I'm gonna All right, guys, we're back live. So we also have a Stoneforge Mystic in this deck, Swords of Plowshares, and Force of Will. So this is an interesting deck. It's a spicy one. He did counter of note the Glimpse of Nature, which makes sense to me. There's a lot of Death Rites in play, so there's a decent bit of mana, but none of it's like busted mana. It's pretty much fair mana. Yeah, no Heritage Druid to be seen. Well, he's obviously got a decent decision here. He's got to figure out if he wants to equip Sword or play something else. I think the right call is equip Sword, and if you draw the Swords to Plowshares, kill the other Deathrite. I think you blow up Deathrite with one of the activations off of Sword of Fire and Ice, and then hope to Mise a 1-mana removal spell, leaving open the Mox Pearl or the Tundra. I don't think it's relevant, because I don't think Wasteland's in this, and there's probably not Phyrexian Revokers in the deck, so I don't think there's a relevant choice between which you leave open. But I think of the... Well, I guess Tundra's probably the best. If you hit, like, a Preordain or something like that, you can cast it. What did he exile? Another Force of Will. Okay, well, that means there's only 2 left in the deck. What is exiled over here? Werewood Symbiote, so that's what he hit with the Swords of Plowshares. It makes sense. That card is bonkers. And it does kind of deadlock his sword if he wants to hit creatures as opposed to the opponent's face. So Kasparati is thinking. Against 1 card. He's only got, I guess, one card left himself. What do you have? It's going to be something interesting to cast it pre-combat. I think I like hitting with the sword and then seeing what I can get, leaving Tundra open to optimize the volume of 1-mana spells I could draw. I would assume he plays 3 to 4 Swords to Plowshares and some combination of Preordains, and or he plays probably Ponder, Ancestral Recall, and Brainstorm at a minimum. Maybe some 1-mana counters, like maybe a Pierce. I don't know, although I don't think that's extremely relevant here unless he's trying to counter... Now, even if he's trying to counter, like, a Natural Order, it wouldn't do it here. Spell Pierce would not, I guess, that was what I meant to say. So he's thinking. Oh, it's lagging out. Ugh. Yeah, Moto has not been great for me either. I've actually dropped twice. Once before we started recording, and then obviously once during we had to go on a pause. Yeah. Likely paying the cost to flip the sword over to the Queller, attack in, kill Deathrite, and then hope to Mise 1-mana removal, like I said. So we'll see what happens. Kasparati may just want to do a restart. I don't know. Hopefully when we get to our games, Magic works. But we shall see. It has not been doing so great so far this evening. And you hate to see a player lose like 2 minutes just waiting for this thing to unstick. I think if I were him, I would just restart Moto. Okay, yeah, he finally disconned, which makes sense. When this happens, some of the time you just got to discon. You click on anything like one more time, it just breaks and the program collapses, and then you just reopen it. Well, we'll go on a quick pause while we're waiting for him to come back, guys. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. We'll quickly go over the deck we're running. It's not going to be up right now, but let me pull it up here. A Paradoxical Outcome. This is the deck. Very light mana base. Only 9 actual lands. 16 additional, well, correction, 16 plus 2. So 18 plus 3, 21. So 21 plus 9 mana sources. Tons of mana in the deck, although 21 of those sources are artifact mana. So there are certain cards, i.e. Stony Silence and Null Rod that just, get us. And that's why we do have the main deck, Chain of Vapor. And then board, we have Chain of Vapor as well as 2 Hercules Recall to kind of get around that. We have Tormod's Crypt for graveyard-based decks I've seen none of. Toxic Deluge for the Mono Fair matchup. Empty the Warrens if we require an additional win con. Pyroblast against the blue decks. Blightsteel in case we just think the opponent has absolutely no way to deal with a tinkered in, one-shot robot. And then Flusterstorms and Mindbreak Traps for the mirror. So if you look over the deck, like I said, we do have one Preordain. We have the one Restricted Ponder, Brainstorm, Ancestral Recall. 4-buy Gataxian Probe. It's a free spell. It draws you a card. Gets you into your artifact mana. One Chain of Vapor for protection. It's a hedge bet. One Demonic Tutor, which generally allows you to get one of the Draw 7s and or a Paradoxical Outcome and or a Win Con. Time Walk, probably one of the worst cards of the deck, but it's an Explorer. Merchant Scroll finds you one of these Paradoxical Outcomes over here, and or actually, yeah, just one of the Paradoxical Outcomes, what allows you to find. And or I guess you could get the Hercules Recall or Chain of Vapor in a pinch. Defense Grid against Control. You just want that. A lot of decks run Force of Will, as we saw. Grim Monolith, 2 of them, just for more mana. A Boat of Draw 7s. Tinker is included in the Draw 7s because main deck, all it really gets. I guess you could get a Black Lotus if you needed to up Storm Count, but like I said, typically this deck meets Storm Count. It gets Memory Jar, though. Paradoxical Outcome by 4, flipping back our 21 artifact mana sources that we kind of already went over, to draw into additional cards and up Storm Count, eventually getting to either Mind's Desire or Tendrils of Agony. It's kind of funny. I often win by Mind's Desire, just Mind's Desiring for the remainder of my available deck if I have not drawn the Tendrils, so I can kill with Tendrils. So that's the deck. Nothing really crazy about it. If you've seen Paradoxical Storm before, you've seen this deck. It is a pretty strong deck, but like I said, there are certain things it just loses to. Well, this is not good. Kasparati is definitely lagging extremely hard. That's a miserable way to suspend a game, is trying to click through, you know what you want to do. Like, I think what he wants to do here is equip the sword, hit, leave up one Tundra, and hope to hit a 1-mana spell unless he already has it in hand. So, pretty miserable. At this point, we are going to go on pause until the action starts up again, guys. Alright, guys, unfortunately, the game has been completed due to timeout of Kasparati. Evidently, his internet connectivity and or MTGO. I don't know which to blame. I'm not an IT guy. But unfortunately, he was forced to concede by the game itself due to lack of action over the course of 10 minutes. So we should be getting our next round's pairings, and we'll be playing. So I'm going to go on a quick pause until we have our pairings, and then I'll bring it back up once we start going. Alright, guys, looks like we're going live here, and we would love to play first. This hand's a bomb, and I don't think we can lose, so we will keep it. Let's see what he's working with. And although it doesn't really matter that much, I just want to see if I can draw into more artifact mana. Cool. So we've cast 8 spells this turn. How daring are we? Well, I don't really want to lose my Mind's Desire. What I could do here is either Mind's Desire for 8, which is arguably pretty darn good. I think that's worth doing here. But it eats up most of my blue mana. I don't think I want to use... We'll float 1 blue. This is a little speculative. That's good. Not good. Not good. Not good. Well, I do have another turn. Okie doke. So, Mox Pearl. Mox Opal. Okay, a bunch of junk. Hmm. I think what we're going to do is this. We're going to do this. We know he has nothing in hand. Well, there's another draw 7. Hmm. I think I just want to draw 7 here. Okay, that should do the trick. Actually, we don't need to do all this, do we? Not really. Let's just go to 10. There we go. And game. Okie doke. So, got him turn 1. Turn 1 kill. Well, really turn 2 because we time walked into it. But let's see if we can make that magic happen again. We shall see. Okie doke. What can you do about a Blightsteel, a Colossus? Probably not much. Do I want Flusterstorm? I probably want another Chain of Vapor. Does he bring in... Do I want F-Storm, though? That's kind of the question. I think I want Flusterstorm over... Like one Flusterstorm over Preordain. And then we're at 61. Time Walk is the weakest card. I think we just run it back like this. This is not really a matchup that this deck has intended on playing against. Just haven't considered it. But having to play game 1 and getting to play at a minimum game 3 is probably strong. Okay, well, I think we keep this. Yep. We cannot force a Will of Note turn 1. I'm going to see like a Goblin Guide here, I would assume. Do you have a Mox Ruby as well? Okay. Well, I doubt I'll hit a land, but it'll be interesting to know what I'm going to get. F6. Well, I guess I do hit the absolute perfect here. So, we'll Force of Will his next play, and then set up the Wheel of Fortune leading up the Tolarian Academy. What is this going to be? Okay. So what he's telling me is he has... Do you have another threat? Okay, we'll counter that. That's fine. So we'll take 4 here. Mana Crypt's actually awesome. Okay. Hmm. 33 cards left in deck at this point. So, this is probably where you concede the game. Like, really cannot lose here. That's the weird thing about this deck is it's like a self-licking ice cream cone. It just, once it starts going, it doesn't stop. Alright, I have the tendrils in hand. And I'm sorry, Yokai, I'm not trying to troll you. I just do that because the cards are so many cards I can't see this thing. I wouldn't have done it if I had really looked deliberately, but it's just easier to throw all this junk in play and make my hand size smaller. So that would be a game there. Once we get done pushing next. Okay. Well, good games, man. Not the most interactive, but again, Red Deck Wins, I think, is a less competitive deck in this format, which is fine because I think there's actually a reward for decks that don't play all the busted cards I'm playing. So let's go on a quick pause. I'm going to report my results, and then we'll watch some of the other game. Ready? This must be a board game. Winter Orb. Pretty sweet, but I don't think it's good against elves because they tap their creatures for mana. Yeah, it's probably a boarded game because we also see a Reclamation Sage in play. He has a Walking Ballista. That seems probably great against elves. So the upper advantage is right now with the Unseen. I don't know who won the first match, but it looks like the Unseen is winning this one. Let's check this one out. All right, Hermit Druid online, and another variant of Paradoxical. It's just one of those decks. I mean, it can, if you don't have a way to stop it, it can win turn 1, turn 2 pretty easily. Obviously we got to be worried about Force of Will, but we run our own Force of Wills, and we do have a board against it. All right, a Monastery Mentor. So he's running a deck that is kind of like a hedge between like Mentor and like Paradoxical Outcome, which is interesting. But I think both decks independently are actually better on their own than mixed together. But that again, like I haven't been playing a lot of Vintage. I have played Mentor. I did play Mentor a decent bit when it was first a thing. Initially, it was like a Bomberman style deck, and then it kind of went into the version it's in now. And that's actually when I kind of got out of it because the format got boring for me. Mentor was just like, eh. Like I just felt like it had the best game in the format against most things, So I kind of got under and over Vintage for a while, and then like I said, I played this Paradoxical Storm deck, which arguably was not an interactive game, but then again, we weren't playing against a staple of Vintage in the last match either, so it was not really determined to be. I don't think it was deterministic to be an interactive game. Speaking of which, this game is over. Unless he has a Force of Will for the Preordained and then removal spell for the Laboratory Maniac. That is what is required here. Mike DeVoe may not have watched his other games. I've seen this deck actually work before. I think I saw him playing it last night randomly enough. I know Doc Pringles. I played around with him in 100 Card Singleton. I saw him playing Vintage the other night. And I didn't know he was a Vintage player, so I checked out what he was playing, and it was actually this deck. So we have Cabal Therapy. Naming Swords to Plowshares would be my guess, or Mental Misstep. Probably Swords to Plowshares and then Mental Misstep. We shall see, though. Swords to Plowshares would be my first guess because he needs to protect the Lab Man like it's a beautiful new baby. Does he have two of these? Force of Will. Interesting. Well, he got two Force of Wills and a Storm. And there's a Fluster Storm still in there. So he's clear to win. He can cast his... I guess he had to do that first because he still has to cast a Dread Return, and he would have seen the STP, so Force of Will does make sense there. You're never going to name Mental Misstep because if they have Mental Misstep, they'll just counter it, and then you can recast your other one. Does he have two or three of those? I saw a second one in the graveyard. I guess only two. Okay, Dread Return, Angel of Glory's Rise, and that should be the game because he will also get a Snapcaster back and cast his Preordain, drawing the additional card he needs to and winning the game. Very cool deck. Oh yeah, you have to put in your Tormod's Crypt. I actually hope I play against that deck because I have Tormod's Crypts, and even then, like I'm just faster, I think. Okay, well this game is still going. Oh, he's at 3. Cool, good for him. Well, he can make a 6/6. Well, let's see how much damage. He can do 2, 5, plus 2. 5 plus 2, 7. He can put him down to 2. If he has another 2 artifacts, he could just kill him this turn, which would be right. If he does not, then he needs to be a little more careful because he'll need 2 blockers back. Although the cool thing is, he can block with the Arcbound Ravager going to 1, putting the counters on something else, and likely sacrificing... Nah, the Winter Orb. It actually looks like this game did shape up to be a very interesting game. Yeah, this game does like it has been very interesting. So he puts him to 4. Well, isn't he just dead here? Yeah, he's dead. No, it doesn't have trample, does it? Yeah, it's only when it comes into play. So no, he actually loses the game. And even if he didn't, he could sack the Arcbound Ravager to make the Foundry Inspector big enough to block the damage out. So this thing does not have trample. Yeah, okay. Okay. Okay, well, that's 1 blocker. You need 2. 2 blockers. 2 blockers. His best top deck is a Walking Ballista. If he draws a Walking Ballista, he just wins. Had the blockers. Can block out the Revoker. Although he does have to block the Crater Hoof next turn. Well, Arcbound has to be blocked. Likely by the Dryad Arbor would be my guess. Yeah, okay. Okay, do you have another threat? He has a Mishra's Factory, which can also block this turn. So that's strong. Can't tap the Ancient Tomb very well here. Can get another Arbor Dry with that going to 3 for an additional sneaky blocker. So I think you attack in with the Crater Hoof. The Mishra's Factory still has Summoning Sickness, so it cannot be made a 3/3, which means that he'll just singularly block with the Phyrexian Revoker. Like I said, his Ancient Tomb is fairly turned off here, unless he's going to use the turn he wins. But he needs an additional blocker, so I assume he has an additional Arbor's Riot in deck that he can fetch with the Misty Rainforest going to 3. Activates Mishra's Factory, which, if he has Artifact removal, that's a bomb here. Whatever happens here, it's going to get sacrificed to the Arcbound Ravager. Yeah, that makes sense. Although, I mean, does it really benefit him here? Because he only has to untap 1 land right now. You know, unless he can kill on the following turn he knows it. The worry I would have... Alright, so he's going to kill this thing. But he still has 2 blockers back. So the factory gets mono huge. Does he have, like, a Nature's Claim? If he does, bombastic. Like, gain 4 life, but your Mishra's Factory is deader than dead. So, does he attack with both? Likely not. That was a bad draw. Likely not. Okay. So he can crack back for 3 if he has the Dryad Arbor. This thing needs to be blocked. So I would expect that he'll sacrifice the fetch land, getting the Dryad Arbor, to block, remaining with a 2/2. Interesting. Interesting. So I think he can take the 2, block with Arbor Dryad, and serve for 2. So he's not playing around Arbor Dryad. I think the Unseen needs to be playing around Arbor Dryad. So there's 1 in the graveyard. If he only runs 1 main, which is possible because it's not the best land, but I think sometimes people run like 2. But evidently not, because if he had it, he would be blocking here. So that's a bummer for him. But he's going to have all his mana next turn, which I think he's given him kind of a window here to get out of this. So he goes to 1, fetches. Interesting. Why wouldn't you keep the 2/2 to crack in for 2? Very interesting to me. So he has a 1/1 that can crack in for 1. Maybe it's about the same, I guess. So Elvish Visionary. And again, it's just, you know, 1 card away from a Walking Ballista. Gaia's Cradle. So he can, like, just go off here, right? Yeah. Hit him for 1. Do you have 1 more? I think what you want to do is actually block, leaving up Deathrite, so that on the following turn you can block Activate. That could be a dead wrong. Although the attacks here, the Phyrexian Revoker will die if he attacks with both. But he's, I don't know, maybe you have to there. I think I liked having the 2/2 though, because you put him to 1 life. Although here he has to block with both if he attacks with both. And he's pretty much forced into a spot that if he didn't draw a creature spell, he needs to attack with both, because if the Deathrite Shaman lives through a turn, if there's a way he can block, such that the Deathrite Shaman lives, then the game is over. So he's going to fire up this and attack with both because he has to, because if he can just allows no outs to block with the Elvish Visionary, the Mishra's Factory is just going to get chumped, and that'll be that because it has no trample. So let's attack with both, but that leaves him open to the Dryad Arbor, which right now, I mean, we haven't seen that he plays Lords in his deck. He's more of a combo Elves build, not like a Pump Elves build. Like, I don't see him playing, you know, like Azuri, you know, Renegade Leaders in his deck, or like Elvish Archdruids. See him more being all in on the Gaia's Cradle, possibly Deserted Temple. I don't know if that's in the deck or not. I think it's a good card in the deck. It's like a singleton. Probably 2 Cradles, maybe 3. I like Crop Rotation in this deck as well, though, because it allows you to get to it. And it also allows you to play less Gaia's Cradles, because they're obviously much worse when they come in packs. Okay, so he's activating this. That doesn't really mean anything, though. That could just mean he is going to play another artifact creature upon end step, so this will give him 3/3, give him 6 mana. There are no sphere effects in play, so he could play something as large as like a Wormcoil Engine here. Yeah, I think Crop Rotation belongs in that deck, to be honest. I think it used to be in the deck. I haven't played Combo Elves. The last time I played Combo Elves was in Legacy, and it's still a deck, but I think it played Crop Rotation, or I think I played Crop Rotation in it, and it felt pretty right. Because it allowed you to do Deserted Temple Cradle, Gaia's Cradle combo, which essentially acts as a doubling cube for Gaia's Cradle. It doubles up your mana. It's fast. But that allowed you to play less Gaia's Cradles, so you didn't get like 2 of them. It was just like junk. You know, I think you just played like 2 and then like maybe 1 or 2 deserted temples, maybe like 1. At the time, though, Deathrite was not a thing. I don't know if that's in the deck now or not. It seems like it's still good. He can't take 2 here of note unless he has a way of gaining a life instant speed. I don't know, like Feed the Clan or something, but I don't think that's in his deck. So what do we have? Wow. Well, that should be game. Just block. Oh, that'd be pretty trolling if you just had the... the only card he could have is Walking Ballista here that I can think of. Or no, Dismember wouldn't work here. Oh, Phyrexian Revoker, stopping the Deathrite Shaman. Cool. Okay. Well, if he gets another creature, though, he can attack with both, and he's got to block more than likely with both. He's got to block at least 1. So, he does have Ounce here. Like, let's see, that's 2, 6 mana. I don't know if he plays Primeval Titan in his deck or not. What do we have? If he has like a Reclamation Sage, it's just like GG's. Because then he just... Okay, well, he could get into it. He could get into a Reclamation Sage here. No, 1 mana Elves here cycle for mana. Rec Sage? That would be a bummer for his opponent. Natural Order. Into Reclamation Sage into win. Yep. So Reclamation Sage, and or I guess you could just do the Crater Hoof, but Reclamation Sage is probably more elegant because you just blow up the Revoker and then Deathrite him to death. And there's no out from that. He has no black mana to cast a Dismember, and I can't. Well, he has zero cards in hand. So that would be the game. Cool. Very cool game. So it appears we're either going to be playing against a Hermit Druid combo or Elves next, or possibly another Stacks deck, one I didn't see. So we're going to have a quick pause, guys, until the next match runs up. I'm so sorry, guys. That was actually a game 2, so No Ounce won a very tight game 2, putting the Unseen on the play with his artifact-based deck. Although it's funny because like Stacks is really only as good as it is because like people don't play like cool creature-based decks in Vintage. Like it's phenomenal against the deck I'm playing. Like he gets like 2 or 3 spheres down, then especially in an unboarded game, then I'm just hoping and praying to. Although I am happy to see Ravager because that's just more of an aggro card. And like if he plays that thing against me, I'm like, cool, cool Ravager, Yeah, so, which makes sense. I mean, you want to play that out first. In this matchup, because like until he gets to like 3 to 4 mana, he's not really casting non-creature spells. Deathrite? No, a Nettle as Sentinel, which initially beats the Arcbound Ravager in combat, but I don't think will for long. Well, up to 4 mana. Taking all the damages, though. Although, I don't think damage is that relevant in this game. That will stop Natural Order, which is very good for him. A Crucible of Worlds. Well, doesn't really do anything here. Although, I mean, he could just, like, draw into his Crater Hoof. Of note, we do not have Cradle or Crushing Cage available to us, so against a Tinker deck, we're just racing. We do have a Tormod's Crypt, which actually I think is possibly stronger than Grafdigger's Cage in some respects. It does less. But Oath is not a deck we're afraid of because we run a 0 creatures main. Unless they're giving us creatures, but even then, like I feel like that's so slow. It's like you got to wait a turn, then you get it. Well, I don't think you want to get a wastelandable land here, but could be wrong. I think if you get Bayou, I think it's fairly likely that he has a wasteland. Well, you know what? Correction. If he did, why would he not play it out last turn as opposed to taking 4 damage? You know, he's already taken 8 off of his lands. You know, so that doesn't make sense to me. But he could top deck a Strip Mine. Strip Mine would be pretty decent, but he's going to have a significant amount of mana with his Deathrite Shaman, plus Nettle Sentinel if he ever manages to draw into Elves. Well, there's the Wasteland. If he had it, though, why wouldn't he use it last turn to cast the Crucible? Oh, wait, no, he cast out the Grafdigger's Cage plus the Crucible. Maybe it was worth it to him. I don't know. Although, I think there was an attack last turn. I really do think there was an attack with the Nettle Sentinel, because if he wants to kill the Nettle Sentinel, then he's sacrificing the Grafdigger's Cage or the Crucible here. He stops taking the damage of no, but I think here he wants to start attacking him. I think you tap down... I don't know. I think you probably just don't tap the Nettle Sentinel and beat in there. And then next turn, well, then again, it doesn't untap. Okay, so he leaves his mana open. That actually is probably right. I was thinking through it more. Like, the Nettle Sentinel's not going to untap on its own. You need to be able to play a creature. So if he's mana light, this makes more sense. If he had another land in hand, it probably did not. Well, he does, so he must have a 2-mana spell. My guess would be a Elvish Visionary. Best guess. Or 2 more 1s. Alright, a Glimpse. Okay. Well, do you have the Heritage Druid? If you do, that could be a big game. The land has already been played this turn of note, though. So... But he can untap the Deathrite Shaman to make more mana. It's going to come at a cost of his own mana development. Okay, so he untaps that. I would assume exiles a land, making 1 more green. Yep. Okay. He's trying to horizontally outgrow, but I think he's going to do a pretty good job of outgrowing the width of Tangle Wire. Although, at the same time, he is gaining cards, but losing land permanents. So, well, he'll stay at permanent parity, and it's down to 3 next turn. Okay. Well, he can continue to return elves and make mana, but I don't know what favors that does him. I think here I actually like attacking with the Nettle Sentinel and forcing him to sack 2 cards, but it's been a long time since I played this, and I could be saying that wrong. Do you have the Heritage Druid? No, you don't. You have a ton of 1/1s, and you've gone up on cards. Given 3 of them are lands, I do think you attack here. You should attack here with the Nettle Sentinel. If he wants to kill it in combat, if he wants to do anything but exchange, just sacrifice 2 artifacts, which would be Tangle Wire, and then what else? Grafdigger's Cage. Of note, I think he left the wrong land in play. I think he wanted the Bayou to go back to hand, unless he really wants him to waste his time using the Wasteland so that he has to take damage off of the Ancient Tombs. Just keep trying to next level him so that he does Wasteland here, as opposed to using the Wasteland for mana, because his life total is already precariously low at 8. And his board has gone notably wide at this point. He doesn't need a lot of mana to make things and stuff happen. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So Wasteland's available. Wasteland him once, then replay it for 1 mana, but I think at this point you have to be fairly dubious about utilizing... Ooh. Well, Wormcoil is a strong one. Although he has him down to 2 at this point. Yeah, I don't know if that card is per se going to be extremely beatable. I think it is quite unbeatable, actually. Does he have, like, Unravel the Aether, like where it puts it on the bottom of the deck? Maybe? I don't think so. Yeah, this seems kind of dubious. Although he can block it. You know what? Here's what he does. He blocks it using the Quirion Dryad and the Wirewood Symbiote, flips the elf back to hand, and then uses Deathrite Shaman until he can get to another spell to kill him with Deathrite mana. So I think he should have left the Bayou available to him, unless he has... Well, he has a secondary Bayou. Uses the Deathrite Shaman to do the 2 damage, bringing him down to 2. And then utilizes the Quirion Ranger, which, correction, the Wirewood Symbiote to return another card to hand that blocks, untapping something, it's irrelevant, and then blocking to flip that blocker with the Wirewood Symbiote. So this game's winnable, actually. And Wirewood Symbiote is going to do some work here. That's how I see it playing out, though. Is the Wirewood, he can he untap a land? Return a forest. I think he really wanted to flip the Bayou, put the Bayou back, and then on the other turn he can return it when he sacks the Wasteland to get it. In response, activating the Deathrite Shaman, targeting Glimpse of Nature to do 2 damage to his opponent, and then uses the Wirewood Symbiote to block with another Quirion Dryad, which he will flip back to hand with the Wirewood, so that his opponent does not gain life. I think that's extremely relevant here, is whether or not he can gain life or not. And even if you were to split the coil and make it extremely large Arcbound Ravager, he'd only have a 3/3 lifelink at that point. So this game is extremely interesting to me. Like, I think it's very winnable for no outs. Although I think he just gave that up. No. Okay, so he's actually doing something more elegant. He's going to flip the thing that blocks. So this will be blocked, and he takes 2 damage. And he can do it. Well, wait. Does he take 4? So he returns this elf and untaps a blocker and then uses the other one. Okay, got it. This still works. Yep. And then, do you want to kill the Quirion Dryad? Which actually he could use the other one for here. So he's going to take 3, untaps the Nettle Sentinel, and he's down to 1. So both of his Ancient Tombs are dead to him. He has Mishra's Factory plus Coil available. Yeah, very interesting. So maybe this is the better line. I was thinking about setting it up on his turn. Yeah, you're going to kill that thing. That's kind of irrelevant, though. And he realizes that Crucible is irrelevant, so he just decides to kill the Quirion Dryad, which he could actually flip right now as well and untap another elf, which would be the Quirion Ranger. And he may even do... Yep, okay. And untaps that one. And now he has blockers, and his opponent is down to 1 here. Cool. Very, very cool. So he ditches a bunch of lands because he doesn't need them. And I think he's got the win here. Very tricky there. Yeah, no, he's going to win, I think. Although... No, wait, is he because of the Tangle Wire? So Tangle Wire's down to 2. That leaves 2 attackers. He's going to have to lead back 2 blockers. So he can't quite do this turn. I think I like my setup better where he did it on his turn. So he could leave a large, a wide board presence. He can still do this. I kind of liked the Deathrite Shaman variant of this better because he already had 2 damage off of that. He will 100% play his Deathrite out next turn, utilizing the Forest. Well, not 100%, but he should use his Forest, play the Deathrite out, leave the blockers available, pass the turn back, flip whatever the Worm Coil is blocked by, and then kill on the following turn by dropping Bayou. So I think it's still a 2-turn clock. Well, that's pretty good. Deathrite? Yep, Deathrite's the most important here, I think. Quirion, yep. Yeah, this is game, actually. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Worm Coil looked pretty stellar initially, and I even thought so, and then I started looking at the cards, and I'm like, well, wait, no, actually, it doesn't really do anything here, because he's able to flip his stuff. And that's enough. He has the Bayou in hand, we know that. because he just ditched 2 fetch lands and has a forest and a bayou at a minimum in hand. Those are the knowns. We know he has bayou forest. We don't know the rest at this point. So that should be game, unless he has like a walking ballista. Walking ballista here would actually allow him to kill the death right. He would have to flip it back to hand. It would give him an additional turn. But he has to tap down for that, and then he can attack for lethal if he does that play. Because he'll only have 2 blockers available, and there's a whole host of attackers. Plus, it has the problem of leaving Gaia's Cradle in play. Yeah, I don't think there's ounce here. I think no ounce is indeed given the unseen and no ounce. So, Elves wins. Very cool. Very cool to see that. Good games, both of you. Alright, guys, now we will go on our pause and wait for our next. Alright, guys, we are back, and we're playing against Doc Pringles here. Well, this hand seems pretty solid. We're going to keep this. Well, let's see what you're working with. Well, here's the question. Do we want to put the land into play? Nice. Ancestral Recall. We're going to do this here. It's kind of odd, but I want to save the memory jar for next turn or based upon what I get off this. Okay. Well, I like the Force of Will. We'll pass it. And then we'll just play busted crap next turn and win. We have Force of Will, which will pitch the Ponder 2 if he tries to make me discard out of my hand. And he has a completely new hand of note. We saw Metal Misstep. I know he has Force of Will in his deck. Yep. But the thing is, if he wants to fight me with his first hand, I'm going to be able to do some pretty busted stuff with Merchant Scroll, which will allow me to make a whole host of cards. By acquiring for me the... gosh, can't think right now. The Paradoxical Outcome. Okay, likely has a Cabal Therapy would be my guess. The question becomes, do I play around a Moxen? If he has Cabal Therapy, he is more than likely going to get the Merchant Scroll. Although, I don't know. He could just go for the Grim Monoliths. Do you have an Ancestral Recall? Or just like a Preordain or something. Metal Misstep is something we have to play around, so we know he has 1 in the graveyard. I'm assuming he's running 4 Force of Wills and 3 or 4 Metal Missteps. A Treasure accrues. Well, we can trade resources here. Nope, you don't want to. Okay. Take my 3 if that is what is happening here. Yep. Cool. Mox. This thing. Now, the question becomes, does he have... I'm going to cast this out, keeping it. Make one additional blue mana. Don't really need to keep green. Okay, well, I think that's probably game. Although, can I make the black mana I need? Yes, I can. Wait, can I? Not quite. Okay. Well, I do not presume you have a Force of Will available, or I think it would have already been cast. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, he gave that one up. And that makes sense, because that was pretty busted. Alright, he's going first this time. What's going to be his board? Don't want a Tormod's Crypt. I think I want it more than a Preordain. I'm pretty likely to see one at least. I don't think I need Time Walk either. I can go with a Tormod's Crypt for that. It's also not a bad target to flip. I think we're going to go with this. We'll see if he has, like, the Null Rod. Alright, let's give this a shot. We are a little bit more disadvantaged being on the draw. And we've been very fortunate in our draws so far. I mean, we've had a turn 1 and a bunch of turn 2 wins so far this tournament. Blightsteel I don't think is good enough. Toxic Deluge is, not good enough either. Don't really have removal, so if that thing hits, it's Chain of Vapor or Bust, or just outrace it. So he needs to get to 3 mana to do that. I'm assuming he runs some sort of fast mana in his deck. If he does not, it's a definite advantage for us, but he does have Force of Will, and he does have Metal Misstep, so you have to be wary of those cards. And we're not running our Counter Magic package, because I just don't feel like his Counter Magic is as strong as ours is. Alright, this hand's weaker. It's actually very weak. I think we throw this back on the draw. Yeah, I think we do. Alright, this hand is busted. Well, we should turn off auto yields. If you have discard, that's pretty miserable. He'll probably hit our Cabal Therapy. Okay. Well, that's actually not bad. If it was Duress, that'd be a lot worse. So what I intend on doing is playing out the Talarian Academy. It's a Paradoxical Outcome. I don't have it. I am going to look for it with the Ponder, though. He could have a mental misstep of note. So we play around that by leaving up a mana for the Force of Will. Our whole hand is going to be on board. We have a Black Lotus on top, which allows us to cast the Force around Mental Misstep. But if he decides to go Hateful with his hand, then that could be advantageous for us. Oh, I guess we didn't leave the Black Lotus on top. That's not good. What do you have in your hand? Okay, go ahead. Alright, cool. She's got a handful of no's. She's got Mental Misstep and Force of Will. Although we could put him in a spot where he needs to use a lot of resources, or we could just... We have black mana available to us now. Yep, there's your other land. And if he wants to stop this, he can. He can take 2 damage. And we know he's got Narcomoeba in hand, so we're not going to just launch this thing off out of nowhere. If he tries to make us discard it, we may. Cool. Not a horrendous draw. Hoping to get him to tap down and then cast Paradoxical Outcome on his end step to see if we can get him to force then. So he's drawing a lot of lands. Narcomoeba, Force of Will out of hand. I don't think he can let this happen. And then we will Time Twister him next turn, I think. And then we can get to a pretty decent battle, I think. Yep. Okay. Yep. Yep. Lotus Petal. And... So a bunch of Force of Wills and junk are going back in his hand. Well, if you have more counter magic, that's pretty good. Do you have it? Well, if you do... Oh, he doesn't want to draw lands, maybe? Yeah, that would make more sense to me. He doesn't want to draw the lands. But he's just going to draw more fetch lands at this point. I guess he won't draw those lands, though. Okay. Cool with me. Well, do you have Flusterstorm in the deck is kind of the question I'm asking myself right now. Flusterstorm or Mind Break Trap? That would be a beating. Demonic Tutor seems good. I think we got him here. Sorry for all the quietness. I'm thinking through this because I also want to play around stuff. And what I'm chiefly trying to play around here is so I think what we do is this. I think we go I've got Force of Wills available. Really, what he has to show me here. Yep. Okay. Said he has a Flusterstorm. I'm going to cast this first to get the Tendrils into my hand. Well, do you have multiple? He's got to tap out for this one, which means that the game is now over. Okay, so we just won. So that should be game. And if it is not, it's not a card I know of. So good games, man. And I think his deck is very sweet. Okay. So we're going to quick pause, guys, and report our results. Now we're watching a White Weenie versus the Unseen's Stacks deck. Pretty cool. pretty cool. The Unseen wins this one, so this is the only game currently going on. Yeah, we just completed ours. So we're going to quick pause while they sideboard, and then we'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back. We obviously had AEF initiate play with a Ancient Tomb. I'm sorry. AEF initiated play. Unseen. No, I'm sorry. Did Unseen start? I'll have to go back and check. I don't think Thorn of Amethyst is good against his deck. I think Sphere is just fine. I'm pretty sure he's just running a bunch of aggro critters. I thought there were like 2/1s and like 2/2s. So Thorn seems kind of marginal. That can get blown up by Wasteland, which I don't know if it will. It seems like AEF is actually under some mana constraints of his own. Yeah, especially with having a Sphere. Like, Sphere Resistance could be like a double-edged sword in some of these newer Stacks decks I've found. Whereas in the older decks, I think they were more like critter heavy now. Like, and maybe it's because the version I play is like a car port or car stacks version, which I tend to run into issues with Sphere of Resistance because the biggest problem I have is it makes car very. Or I'm sorry, what's the car called? The 5/3 trample haste that comes into play. It's in a vehicle. Fleetwheel Cruiser. Sorry, I'm terrible with card names. I know everything that card does. I just can never remember it. Crew 3, all that. It tends to be worse in that deck, so I run into issues with Sphere of Resistance in it. But I guess he's playing more of a Ravager Shops build. Kataki's fine. One thing I found is Kataki is definitely beatable if he has like a card like Tolarian Academy. If he's taking 2 damage a turn, there you go. That is the answer to Kataki. Winter Orb, not bad for him. So he'll untap his Tolarian Academy every turn and use it to pay for all of his artifacts. Now, if the white player, AEF, is playing Wasteland, he can definitely get him very hard here, where he just like loses on the spot. There you go. Like, that's probably game, guys. Well, I guess it's not. He can untap the Ancient Tomb and take 2 a turn and have a 3/2 that can attack, but then he's getting hit back for 2, and he's doing nothing with his mana. So Winter Orb I do not care for in this matchup. I think it is dubious against Kataki, the War's Wage. Plus, you're playing an opponent that's cards are extremely fair and essentially can curve out about as fast as yours can. So I don't really see Winter Orb as being a strong card in this matchup. I think in some matchups it could be okay. I haven't seen it in a lot of Stacks lists. Maybe he's just experimenting with it. I don't think it's good enough, to be honest. I think he's going to allow the Winter Orb to die here. And possibly a Wasteland. No, he can't Wasteland here. He's got to pay for his thing. He really needs to draw a factor. Well, I don't even know what he needs to draw here, because like Ancient Tomb is like really the only good land outside of outside of the Tolarian Academy for paying for a Kataki. What I was going to say about Kataki, though, is it's certainly a no Energy Flux. Energy Flux is just a game ender. I don't think I've ever seen, and I'm sure it's happened in the history of Magic, I'm sure it's happened, but I have never seen a Stacks deck could beat that card once it has hit the board. Never. I'm sure it is doable. It's probably more doable nowadays. Well, I guess like if you had like a Slash Panther version of the deck where like it does damage at haste speed, that's actually extremely strong too. I'm sure if you had like a Slash Panther variant of the deck, it could do it, and or a Car Shops variant of the deck, it could do it because it's doing like 5 essentially outside of the tax effect. So like if I'm playing like 4 Lodestone Golem against a resolved Energy Flux, it's just going to beat me. Well, Caracas is actually not a bad draw here. So you can put the Kataki back. He's going to make him pay 1 for the Null Rod first, though. And or he could possibly just wait till attack step and flip it during attacks. That way he can replay it, but then he can flip it again and start getting it for 3. But then, like, if he does that, if he's trying to get it for the 3, then I guess he's doing it every end step. He uses the non-basic, which makes sense. You guys, excuse me, I'm going to drink a soda here. Well, that was good. Yeah, he is beating up on him pretty bad. I do not think he likely runs a basic, unless he is like unless we just haven't seen like a humans component, like like a Thalia, like Thalia's. But I think if we've seen a couple of games, we've seen a couple of his games, and we've had to see those cards. So he's playing pretty much just a Shops deck with Ravager available to him, as well as Walking Ballista. Both very strong cards. Although, honestly, like, I've been more and more impressed by this Paradoxical Storm list. It did very well today, although I think I did have matchups that were favored for me. As well as a buy, but I've been playing the deck. Like, I'm not going to say I'm an expert at the deck by any means whatsoever. Like, I've only picked up the deck probably about 5 to 6 days ago, and I fell in love with it as soon as I played it once. Actually, it's funny because, like, I tend to like more difficult decks, and I don't think Paradoxical Storm is per se a very difficult Storm variant of a deck to play. I think more of the Legacy versions are more difficult. We're using, like, Pyromaster's Ascension, and, like, you have to use cards like Past in Flames to win in that format. I think it's relatively easy to play. I think it is a slightly easier, or at least I have found it to be so. I found it more of a winning deck than what is the card called? The essentially the demonic tutor card. That's 5 mana. Dark Petition. I found it to be better than that variant, as well as slightly easier to play. Although when you have the draw in that deck, it can actually win just as fast, if not faster. But I do find Paradoxical to be a more fun deck to play. I found it to be very fun. Once it gets going, it's almost unstoppable, like you saw. Is kind of what I found. Like, once it gets the first Paradoxical down, if it gets to the second, the first one can be beat. If it gets to the second one in the same turn, the game's over. Like, you might as well just concede, because I don't think it's very possible. I don't think it's statistically possible for that deck to lose at that point. Because it's going to get to one of its, like, either draw 7s if it's all junk, or it's going to get to a Mind's Desire and just draw a billion, or it's going to hit enough Storm Count, hit Mind's Desire, and then, like, draw the rest of the deck and play the rest of the deck, etc. So, yeah, this game is over. Let's see if No Rod has the old school artifact. Yeah, no, it doesn't have the old school. The Trinisphere is a very old artifact, and, like, if it's tapped, it's considered, I believe, a mono artifact. For instance, like, back in the day, and Winter Orb still may be phrased this way, because when Winter Orb was printed, that rule existed. Let me find it. Yeah. So Winter Orb, if it's tapped, it actually doesn't work. That's how artifacts used to work. I believe, is it mono or poly? It was called poly artifacts. Poly artifacts worked that way. So the old combo had been, and why they've eroded this card, because it never said this originally when it was printed in Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, is it originally said just the first part of the text, as long as Winter Orb is untapped, or correction, as long as Winter Orb is in play, players cannot tap more than one land during their untap steps. The combo with it was at the time Icy Manipulator, which is an entire generation of decks, which is why I think it's cool to see the card, although I don't think it's good enough for Vintage right now. But maybe it is. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. But at the time it was Icy Manipulator, which is a 4-mana artifact, pay 1, and you can tap or untap target artifact, creature, or land, I want to say. And that card, in combination with Winter Orb, would allow you to lock out opponents. They would only play 1 land a turn, you would untap every turn, and eventually you'd win with some nonsense creature at the time, because the creatures were not very good back then. I think this is the end. I don't know if there's going to be finals or not, but let's go to the chat real fast and see what the deal is. Oh, it looks like we got a round 4. Okay, I thought we were only playing 3 matches, but cool. So I guess we will play one more round, which is cool. I thought we were only playing 3, but okay. But 4 rounds is cool with me. Well, I'm going to go on a quick pause until... Alright, guys, unless we get a really horrendous draw, I think... I kind of feel like this is going to be an easier matchup for us, because we're going to be playing against White Weenie. And we'll see. We'll see how we do. He could have like a bunch of Thalias and stuff like that, but I feel like we're faster. But, we could just get beat. He could just have, like, I don't know, like Mox or Lotus into, like, turn 1 or turn 2 Kataki and get us. But we'll see. We shall see. Oh, it actually should be a round of 4. Oops. Hmm. Well, we do have a tinker into busted junk. I think we will play out the. I don't think our opponent will be countering our spells. So we'll just play out a defense grid turn 1 and likely sacrifice either it. No, we'll just sacrifice the Chromox. No, defense grid, because Chromox is better if I happen to get a busted hand off of Jar. Turn 1 threat. Cool. Fine with that. Well, that's not a card we want to see go. However, we should be okay. I don't think I need the defense grid here, guys, so I'm going to get rid of it. I obviously cannot exile the Tendrils of Agony. No. And so the Tendrils is going to... Actually, no, it'll be in my hand after this. So it's not going to be available right now. Yeah, that's all going to the graveyard. It's irrelevant. Unfortunately, so is... Huh. Do I want to draw more cards? What I don't want to do is draw into Yawgmoth's Will. Here's what we're actually going to do. We're going to set up for a next turn. Actually, is my Brainstorm's already in the graveyard, which would have been nice actually here. Because I can set up my draw for the next turn, I think, yeah. So, let us do this. Want neither of those. Didn't really want that either. Well, Okay, we'll let all this go to the graveyard. And it is unfortunate that we had the Mize. Well, there's certainly some good cards left in our deck. Chain of Vapor not being one of them. Okie doke. Well, Chain of Vapor is at least cool. Sanctum Prelate is cool. So the Tolarian Academy is in the graveyard of note. We do have the Chain of Vapor, which is not a bad thing. Although, it's also not phenomenal. The Brainstorm is gone. So I couldn't manipulate my top deck, and the Preordained did not work out. So I actually don't think I want to sack fetch land here, because I know I have land and grid, defense grid on bottom of my deck. Although, so like, what are our draws? Right now, we want is maybe our draws aren't that great. Leon and Relic Order? That's fine. I mean, what do you want to take? None of them matter that much. That's cool. That is cool by me. Do I want to shuffle to get the one land out? I think I might, actually. No, that can't be right. So, yeah, having Tendrils in hand then was like, ugh. The worst. Nope. Okay. Shouldn't have cast that. But really, I'm looking to get a Yawgmoth's Will here. Give him blow up my lands. A Sanctum Prelate. That's fine by me. He's going to say 4, I would assume. 4 or 3. Either way, I can bounce that is 4, yep. So we got one turn left to draw here. I'm not going to, well, yeah, no, I only got one turn left, so I might as well bounce it at end step. It's an unfortunate loss. We really lost his Tendrils being in our hand. It's like, yuck. So, Gonna have that back. And if I have to, so I'm not going to die next turn, but he is going to cast that thing. Still don't think. Well, there we go. Alright. Spin the wheel. That's our draw 7 we needed. Thank you, deck. I'm going to ditch the Tendrils, but I think I can make enough black mana. Yeah, there we go. One, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 is fine. Yep. Last minute Mize. Tendrils for lethal. Okay, cool. We got a little lucky there. I also think we were wise not to sack that fetch land. Well, Sanctum Prelate tends to get the Empty the Warrens. However, maybe out here, because I don't have a lot of removal, do I want a Chain of Vapor? Yeah, probably. Do I want Time Walk? Not really. Do I want Hurkyl's Recall? Probably one. I don't think I need Defense Grids. I don't think he's running Counter Magic. Do I want a Toxic Deluge? I think I do. I think I want one of those available to me. And do I want... Do I want another Hurkyl's Recall? I don't think I need it. Although, that could be wrong. Well, he has... Will he take his removal out? That's the other question. Is he going to take his Path to Exiles out? Because if he does, the Blightsteel plan is not terrible. I think we go with this for this time. Does he have Wasteland? I didn't see anything like that. Yeah, we're going to submit. We're going to submit like this, and we might want another Hurkyl's Recall. We saw in his boarded game against the Stacks player that he did have availability of No Rod. But I think he's not going to have Mental Misstep, I don't think. So, like, Chain of Vapor, the 2 Chain of Vapors plus the Hurkyl's Recall should be good enough against that. We don't have to be worried about Sanctum Prelate as well, but that was a very slow draw due to the fact that we had that card, we had the Tendrils in hand. So we may have misplayed that. I don't know. Yeah, maybe we... I don't know. Maybe we weren't supposed to go for the Memory Jar there? But then it begs the question, like, what am I going for? Like, a Sensei's Divining Top to, like, look at more cards? That doesn't really make sense to me. It doesn't seem good enough. I don't know. So if anyone who's watching this is, you know, an experienced Paradoxical Storm player, let me know. I'd be really curious to know. Okay, this hand's not good. I'm on the play, but I do have a Force of Will. Question is, do we hope to Mize? I think I'm going to keep this. It's barely a keep, though. I do want to use the Preordain. If you have a turn 1, that's fine. Yep. Not going to counter that thing. We'll get Underground Sea here. Yeah. Haven't seen Wasteland out of him. Okay. Now, if he plays Null Rod next turn, we're going to have a very powerful turn after that. I don't think I'm going to play the land out, because I have the Mox Opal to make the red. If he plays out the Null Rod, I think I just counter it here. That card's mono fair. Fine with that. I mean, it's a beating. But, yep. 2 damage. Do you have another one? You have a Path to Exile up? Silence, possibly? But I have the Force of Will for that. Maybe he has Silence in board. Silence would be pretty cool. Or like Aurim's Chant. Question is, do I play the land here? I don't think I do. So I think what we're going to do is this. I think we're actually going to exile these 2 cards. The Force of Will and the Hurkyl's Recall. So we can actually have mana out of these things. Seems good to me. And do I want to play the last land? I don't really think I do. Because I want to hit the Tolarian Academy here. I do not. So, get the other underground C because at this point, huh? Hmm. Okay, so here's what we do. We're going to set up for a very big next turn. Unless I can find something that like just sells me this turn. And nothing does. Although, let's do this. Oh, I did that end step. Why'd I do that? I meant to get the pedal and put it into place so I could leave up the chain of vapor. So I have to occupy my mana next turn. But hey, you know, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other. If he plays out the Null Rod here or the Sanctum Prelate, I can still get it. Yeah, okay, so you're going to Ghost Quarter me. I'm fine with that. So, yeah, Null Rod. That's actually, it looks good on paper, but I don't think it's going to do what you want it to do here. And he could Ghost Quarter me, but I think he wants to save that for the Tolarian Academy. I do have the one basic island in deck. So is that all you got? That's fine. Yes. I will get this. And upon end step, I will flip this. And there's something he probably wants to flip back to my hand, I would guess. Not paying for that. We'll take the 1. And we should just win here, I think. No. Note our library has been shuffled at this point. Huh. So, what we'll do here is this. Alright, that's a game, guys. There is the tendrils. I'm not going to drag this out. I'm sorry for any of the opponents I did do that to. I did not intend on dragging any of these games out. It is a pretty silly deck. And after I stack all of these, I'll just push F6. Good games, man. Good games. And Paradoxical Storm, I think, just took down this Vintage tournament. I think we just went 3-0. I mean, we had a bye. So let's check out. Actually, the Vintage Super League is actually going on. We may go online and check that out on Twitch in a little bit here. Good games, everyone. And we did have some good games. So hey guys, yeah, we ended up taking it down, and we actually didn't lose a game somehow. That one was dicey, where we trapped the our win con, our only win con in the deck, in our exiled hand with the memory jar. So I'll just say, and maybe I didn't think through it well enough. My kind of notion was that I could like use like cards like I could set up my Yawgmoth Will or a draw 7 the following turn to get into Yawgmoth's Will, and or just like set up like the top deck using Preordain. And that's one of those weird situations where like I would have wanted a Preordain, another Preordain. I don't think Ponder was in the graveyard. Brainstorm definitely was. And that's actually why we Ancestral as well, even though it didn't like quite make sense. It was just like we're ditching more cards. But you know, and if I had hit, I was less likely to hit the Yawgmoth's Will. You know, because it was only 5 cards that I knew, having both the land and the defense grid on the bottom of my deck, and having a 23-card deck, I knew that if I drew 3 cards, I was less likely to hit the Yawgmoth's Will of those 3, thus upping my probability to hit it in the remaining few, knowing that the 2 on the bottom were not it. So that's kind of why I made that play, although the line I took maybe was wrong. But that being the case, I don't know what I tinker for that turn, even though I know that I have my win con in hand and I can't actually storm into it that turn, because I guess the only way I could do it is if like somehow I had like if I had like Quicken in the same hand with Tendrils of Agony, I could do it end step to win. Well, no, even then, well, yeah, I could. I just have to leave enough mana up to do all of that, so it'd be like 5 mana. So deck's very, very cool. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I played it well. The results were good. I think some of the decks we played against were less competitive than this deck was. That's not a knock on anyone's deck choice or their play. I think everyone played well. I just think this is a very, very powerful deck. I mean, it's a staple in Vintage right now, and I had a lot of fun playing it. So if you are new to Vintage, old to Vintage, and you have not played this deck, or you're currently playing it, I highly recommend it. It's very fun, very cool deck. It is narrow, so it has a lot of things that can hate it out. And as you saw, like Null Rod can just get it, but that's why we have the board of our Hercules Recall and our Chain of Vapor. I'm not sure if I really agree with the Toxic Deluge, although it may be very good in like the a white Eldrazi Humans deck list against that. So you can get rid of like a bunch of Thalias and stuff. I don't know. I could play it more. You know, and I would say I've probably had more competitive matches outside of that tournament. That tournament, I think the pairings kind of favored our deck. Actually, I'm trying to think. Did we even face a deck? We faced one deck with Force of Will and Mental Misstep in it. We didn't face any Stax decks. And I think Stax tends to be the deck that has the ability to get this deck. Although that's why we have the recalls available to us, because we don't want to just lose to them. I'm almost wondering if like now Toxic Deluge has to be better than like 1 Energy Flux. Energy Flux is like horrendous for this deck itself. Although like. That's not good. It's not good. I'm like trying to think too hard about it. There's no way it could be good. Like it's just I love that card. Like I love playing it in land still, and I'm like trying to think if there's a way you could make it good. Like But like the cards that would allow you to make it good would already be good against the opponent's deck anyways, like Hurkyl's Recall on their end step, flip all your artifacts back, don't pay a thing, play them back out, then kill, but that's just like silly. If you already have the Hurkyl's Recall and you want to stop their stuff, then you just stop their stuff with Hurkyl's Recall. But very, very cool deck. I hope you guys enjoyed the video series, and if you have any questions, just send some up. And again, like I normally am a 100-card singleton player, but like I said, I started playing this deck like 4 or 5 days ago, and I decided to jump into this event because I saw it was available, and I kind of wanted to play this deck a bit. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. This event was hosted on Gatherling.com and played on MTGO. If you're interested in it, I believe it is called the Vintage MTGO Swiss. This event specifically was 16.15. The next one, I believe. Let's go check. Well, I don't see the next one listed, but if you go to the actual event itself, you can go to the linked site for the Vintage MTGO Swiss, sponsored by Card Hoarder, and it'll tell you the schedule. So we have the schedule here. Upcoming events are as follows. And it looks like the next one's on the 14th, so we have a whole week to wait until this will be played again, and there's one on Thursday of the following week as well. So very, very cool deck, very cool event, cool folks. Definitely enjoyed playing y'all, and hope to see some other faces out there. All right, guys, thanks, and take care.